Alright everybody, welcome back to our Introduction to Graphics portion in C++ with SFML, the graphics library that we're using. Hopefully I've had a chance to look at it a little bit and get a little bit adjusted to how it's working. I've had a few people ask me some questions about how to get a ball to bounce. So when I run my code from last time, I had that pink ball and it is moving. How do I get it to move across the screen and then bounce off the wall? All that code is going to have to go inside of this while loop because this is the code that's running. It's running 60 times a second, all the code I've highlighted here. Okay, so any code I put outside of that will only run once. And that's not what we want. We want it to run 60 times a second. So I do have this move here. This is going to need to change though. Right now it's 5, but eventually when it hits the wall it will have to change to -5. So if something needs to change, I really should make this a variable. So I'm going to call that step x. And when I make a variable, ask yourself why I would not make this variable name inside of the loop itself. Why, when I make a variable, declare it, why would I put it outside of this while loop? Think about that. Okay, so when I run this, nothing in my program should change. Again, it's just moving 5 pixels. However, if, and I need to know the x position of my shape, right? So if I go shape dot, and most of the SFML stuff is get position. So here's a get position command. It says a lot of stuff here. But if you look at the colon, it says, don't worry about the word const. You know what const means. It means a variable that can't be changed. It says that get position is a vector 2f. So for instance, let's see what this does. Can I output this on the screen? Cout shape dot get position. Right there, let it auto type. And I'll go ENDL like that. What will happen? I get a crazy error. It's like 500 lines long. But if I look at the first one, it says basically it's arguing about these double arrows. Basically, it's saying cout doesn't know how to output. Cout knows how to output ints, floats, strings, characters, but it doesn't even know what a vector 2f is, right? So what I want to do is just go a little deeper with this get position function and hit dot and see what's available to me. And the two things that are available other than this nonsense here is that this get position has an x and a y. So if I do x and output that, let's see what it does on my cout screen. It looks like it's outputting the x position of the ball, so that's good. Okay, so if I want to check if the ball is off the screen, I'll just go if shape dot get position dot x is ever greater than, now my screen is 700 or 800 pixels wide, and my radius of my ball is 100. So my ball is actually got a radius of, or a diameter of 200 pixels. And we have to know, like if you look here, let me just draw something on the screen. Hopefully this works. Let me draw. If I were to draw a ball on the screen here, not my best work, but is that how this works? Okay. Okay, so if I have a circle here, so let me draw. Maybe. Yeah, I will. Where does SFML basically set the point that it controls to move it? So what SFML does, terrible drawer here, but it takes every shape that it draws, and it always kind of gives it this internal origin right at the it basically draws a box around every shape, no matter what the shape, even if it's like a sprite or a picture from online. It'll draw a bounding box around it, and then if you move a point, or if you like check any kind of point, it's always in reference to the top left of this thing. So if my screen is 800 pixels right at the edge here, when I say get position, it's actually getting the position of this top left corner here. So I can't let this position be any greater than 600, because then if this is 600 and the width here is 200 pixels, then I know that the edge of my ball will be right off the edge of the screen. And actually we can move this origin, and what I'll probably do is end up moving it here. It's not hard to do, so that it's just our code is more less confusing. But for now, let's just make sure our x is never greater than 600. Let's get my mouse here. Okay, so in my code I'm going to say, is x greater than 600? If it is, then what do I want to do? I actually want to reverse this. I want to make it -5. So I could say step x equals -5. Let's see what happens. Will it bounce? Yes, it will. Good. And I could also do an else if in here. Else if shape dot get position dot x is ever less than 0, and 0 this time because again, I'm referencing the left point of my circle. So I will make step x equal +5, like that. And now it'll bounce in the x and the y direction, or just in the x direction. I mean, you can obviously make a step y variable and get it bouncing in the y direction. One thing I'd like to do is reset the origin of this ball, and we talked about that. I would actually like to reset the ball's origin to the center of the ball. So when I go to use this set origin command, shape.set origin, like that, if you look, it needs two numbers. It needs an x and a y. And what it needs is, it needs the x and y position of this point with reference to this point. So try to convince yourself that to do that, I actually have to go 100 pixels down in the y and 100 pixels over in the x. Now in SFML, down is positive and right is positive. Everything down on the screen, like the origin of the screen is the top left, so everything that's down is positive. You know, this is like 600 pixels for our window in the y direction. And so I have to set my origin to my radius. There you go. Now watch, it won't bounce properly until I fix those numbers. See that? First of all, it moves it. And look what it's doing. It's not working properly. So what I should do here now is I should say 700. And here I should say, 100 pixels. Just basically the radius of the ball subtracted from the size of the screen. Now I don't like that it starts. By the way, when it starts, watch this. If I can get it to run, stop it. When my program starts, the ball starts at 0, 0 by default. So the center of the ball is actually at the top left of the screen. So when I start my program, I'm actually going to set the position. Shape.set position. And I will give it two numbers, somewhere a little bit lower on the screen, perhaps, maybe like 300, 300. And there you go. So see if you can get it bouncing off the Y and the top and the bottom too.